In the gentle light of dawn, the Buddha reminded his disciples that nothing disturbs the human heart more subtly and more deeply than the habit of comparison. When you begin to measure your journey against someone else's, you unknowingly hand over your peace to illusions. For every mind carries its own karma, its own lessons, its own timing. The Buddha taught that just as no two lotus flowers bloom at the same moment, yet each opens beautifully in its own season. Similarly, every human life unfolds according to an inner rhythm that cannot be forced or duplicated. When you compare, you create suffering because you deny the uniqueness of your own existence. You look outward for worth instead of inward for wisdom. Peace dissolves the moment you forget that your path is sacred, not because it resembles anyone else's, but because it belongs only to you. The Buddha would say, "Walk steadily, even if slowly, for a single step taken consciously in your own direction is worth more than 100 taken in imitation." The world celebrates loud success, but spiritual success is quiet, personal, and cannot be compared. When your eyes constantly scan others, you lose sight of the treasure already resting in your hands, your strengths, your growth, your potential. Comparison blinds you to gratitude and feeds restlessness, jealousy, and doubt, while self-understanding nurtures serenity and confidence. Imagine a river trying to flow like a mountain, or a tree trying to grow like another tree. Both would fail, not because they are weak, but because they abandon their nature. So too does a person weaken when they abandon their authenticity. The Buddha's path is not about being better than others. It is about being better than your past self. When you release comparison, you create space for compassion, for yourself and for others, because you finally recognize that everyone is carrying burdens you cannot see. You stop competing with journeys you do not understand and start learning from them instead. Walking your own path does not mean isolating yourself. It means honoring your truth while respecting the truths of others. It means trusting your pace, your effort, and your becoming. The Buddha advised that the greatest peace comes not from reaching the destination quickly, but from walking mindfully, with awareness of each step. When you embrace your individuality, life stops feeling like a race and begins to feel like a pilgrimage toward inner freedom. So breathe deeply, let go of comparison, and turn inward. Your journey is enough, your pace is enough, and you are enough. The peace you seek will blossom the moment you realize that the only path you are meant to walk, the only path that can lead you to awakening, is your own. As the Buddha continued to speak, he reminded the seekers gathered under the Bodhi tree that the greatest victory in life is the victory over one's own wandering mind. He said that the moment you stop comparing yourself with others, a new clarity begins to rise within you like the sun emerging from behind the clouds. You suddenly realize that the path others walk is shaped by experiences you have never lived and storms you have never weathered. So to compare your journey with theirs is like comparing the flight of a bird with the growth of a tree. Each follows its own nature, each fulfills its own destiny. The Buddha explained that peace is not found by trying to walk faster, achieve more, or shine brighter than someone else. Peace comes when you learn to live with awareness, with gratitude for where you stand today, and with faith that your next step will reveal itself when the time is right. He taught that the mind, when trapped in comparison, begins to believe lies. I am behind, I am not enough, I should be somewhere else by now. But these thoughts are illusions created by fear and ego, not reflections of truth. Truth is found only in the present moment, and the present moment asks nothing more from you than sincerity. The Buddha encouraged everyone to breathe and observe their own hearts, to ask themselves, what is my path? What is my duty? What is my next small step? For when you turn inward, the noise of comparison fades, and your inner lamp begins to glow again. He reminded them that just as a seed does not bloom by looking at another flower, you too cannot grow by looking endlessly at the lives of others. Growth comes from tending to your own soil, nourishing your own roots, and allowing your own petals to unfold naturally. When you walk your own path with mindfulness, you become unshakable because you no longer depend on the approval or validation of the world. You become like a mountain, silent, steady, and calm, unchanged by the winds of opinion and untouched by the storms of comparison. The Buddha said that a person who walks their own path becomes a light for others without even trying, for authenticity radiates effortlessly. Others begin to feel comfort in your presence, not because you are perfect, but because you are real. And in that authenticity, you find freedom. Freedom from judgment, freedom from fear, freedom from the endless race that society creates. So the Buddha urged his listeners, slow down, breathe, look within, and walk gently on the path that belongs only to you. Life is not a competition, it is a journey of awakening. When you stop comparing and start living, the peace you once chased will begin to chase you instead. The Buddha then closed his eyes for a moment, as though listening to the silent whispers of nature, and when he spoke again, his words carried the softness of a breeze, yet the strength of truth. He said that one of the deepest causes of suffering is the human tendency to believe that happiness exists somewhere outside, waiting in someone else's achievements, possessions, or social stature. But happiness, he reminded them, is never found by chasing what others have. It emerges only when you recognize the worth of what already resides within you. The Buddha taught that every person is born with a unique purpose, like a star assigned to shine in a specific corner of the sky. No star tries to outshine another, yet the night becomes beautiful because each one shines in its own place. Likewise, life becomes beautiful when you embrace your own inner light instead of dimming it with comparison. He continued by explaining that comparison creates illusions of failure, even when you are making progress. You begin to overlook your efforts because you are too focused on someone else's outcomes, forgetting that outcomes vary based on timing, karma, and unseen struggles. The Buddha urged his disciples to reflect on this. When you compare your chapter 1 to another's chapter 20, you invite unnecessary sorrow. He said that comparing journeys is like comparing two rivers. Each begins at a different source, flows through different landscapes, faces different obstacles, but ultimately, each finds its way to the ocean. No river flows wrong, no journey is wasted. Everything unfolds exactly as it is meant to. The Buddha advised them to cultivate mindfulness so that every step becomes an act of presence, not pressure. When you are mindful, you stop racing, stop pretending, stop competing, and start truly living. You learn to celebrate your own victories, no matter how small, and honor your own pace, no matter how slow. Mindfulness teaches you to value the seedling stage as much as the flowering stage, for growth is sacred at every point. He said that once the mind stops craving another person's life, it becomes lighter, more spacious, and more capable of receiving wisdom. Then compassion grows because you no longer see others as threats or competitors. You see them as fellow travelers. The Buddha explained that a heart free from comparison can finally love, create, learn, and give without fear. And in that freedom, you discover the pure joy of becoming yourself. Walk your own path, the Buddha said, for no one else can walk it for you. Your footprints are meant to be yours alone. He reminded them that life is not about catching up or getting ahead. It is about waking up. And those who wake up realize that peace was never far away. It was simply waiting behind the door of self-acceptance, ready to enter the moment comparison leaves.
As the disciples listened with quiet reverence, the Buddha gently traced a line in the soft earth with his finger, a simple gesture that drew every eye and stilled every wandering thought. And he said that just as this line is unique and cannot be copied perfectly by any other hand, so too is each life unique and cannot be lived by anyone else. Not a parent, not a friend, not a mentor, and certainly not a stranger whose life we observe from the outside. He explained that when you allow comparison to seep into your mind, it clouds your vision and prevents you from seeing the sacred significance of your own journey. You start believing you are behind, unaware that in the vast design of existence, no one is behind and no one is ahead. Every soul is exactly where it must be for its growth. The Buddha reminded them that life is not a single race run on the same track, but millions of paths unfolding simultaneously, each shaped by different karmas, lessons, and destinies. He said that comparing yourself to someone else is like comparing the sunrise to the moonrise. Both appear at different times and serve different purposes, yet both are equally beautiful to the universe. The Buddha urged the seekers to turn inward and ask themselves, "What is my truth? What is my calling? What is my next mindful step?" The world, he said, will always provide reasons to compare. Someone will always seem wealthier, wiser, more talented, more accomplished. But these illusions distract you from the profound truth that real fulfillment comes not from surpassing others, but from aligning with your own purpose. He explained that when you walk your own path with sincerity, even if the journey appears slow or uncertain, the universe opens doors for you that remain invisible to the one who imitates or competes. Peace follows those who follow themselves. The Buddha said that a person who stops comparing becomes like a calm lake, clear, still, and capable of reflecting the truth. Such a mind no longer absorbs external noise because it recognizes that noise is not reality. The Buddha encouraged them to cultivate self-compassion, to speak to themselves gently, to honor their mistakes as teachers and their progress as blessings. He said that the heart becomes lighter the moment you stop burdening it with the weight of comparison. Instead of asking, "Why not me?" you begin to ask, "What is meant for me?" And in that shift, life transforms. You start noticing your own gifts, your own small successes, your own steps toward growth. You celebrate others without feeling diminished, and you celebrate yourself without feeling guilty. The Buddha concluded that when a person truly walks their own path with grace, courage, and mindfulness, two miracles occur. They find the peace they have long been searching for, and they unknowingly inspire countless others to seek the same within themselves.
The Buddha paused once more, allowing the silence to settle over the gathering like a warm blanket, and in that silence the seekers felt a gentle shift within themselves, as if their hearts were softening to receive a deeper truth. Then, in a voice calm as a flowing river, he said that comparison is born from ignorance of one's own inner beauty, inner strength, and inner potential. When you fail to recognize your own worth, you begin to look outward, hoping that others will define it for you, but this search only leads you farther away from your true self. The Buddha explained that the mind, when not trained, naturally seeks differences, weaknesses, and shortcomings, but a mindful mind seeks growth, gratitude, and purpose. He encouraged his disciples to practice awareness of their thoughts, to simply observe when comparison arises and gently guide the mind back to the present moment like a parent guiding a child home. He said that when you see someone succeeding, do not let your heart shrink with envy. Allow it instead to expand with inspiration, for their success does not diminish your path. Every soul has its own season, and no season blooms twice at the same time. The mango tree does not envy the coconut tree, nor does the lotus envy the sunflower. Each grows according to its nature, nourished by the same sun, yet blossoming in its own rhythm. The Buddha urged them to understand that comparison steals joy not because others are ahead, but because your gaze has shifted from your own feet to someone else's destination. When your focus returns to your own journey, your energy becomes whole again. You stop scattering yourself across the achievements of others and begin investing your strength in your own growth. He reminded them that even the smallest step taken mindfully has the power to transform your life, while the fastest step taken out of competition leads only to exhaustion. He said that when you walk your own path with clarity and commitment, you develop inner stability, and from this stability emerges an unshakable peace. A person rooted in their own journey cannot be uprooted by comparison, judgment, or fear. The Buddha explained that the greatest freedom comes from accepting that you do not need to be anyone else. You do not need to match another's pace, mirror another's choices, or achieve another's dreams. Your path is sacred because it is yours, and no one else has been given the privilege to walk it. He invited the seekers to imagine their life as a canvas, still being painted, and every experience, joyful or painful, is a stroke of color that adds depth and meaning. Comparison, however, makes you abandon your own canvas and attempt to copy someone else's artwork, leading only to frustration and emptiness. The Buddha concluded this teaching by saying that the moment you choose authenticity over comparison, you reclaim your peace, your power, and your purpose, and your life finally begins to blossom in the way it was always meant to. As the sun began to sink behind the distant hills and the golden light leapt the earth in a peaceful glow, the Buddha looked upon his disciples with eyes full of compassion and said that the greatest journey one can take is the journey inward. He reminded them that the purpose of his teachings was not to make them better than others, but to help them become better than the person they were yesterday. He said that comparison is a shadow that follows those who forget their own light, but the moment you turn inward, the shadow disappears. The Buddha encouraged them to carry forward this wisdom, that peace blossoms when you embrace your own truth, your own pace, and your own purpose. He taught that joy is not something to be chased in the world outside, but something to be uncovered within the silence of your own heart. Every step taken mindfully on your own path brings you closer to that inner treasure. He told them that life is a sacred mural painted through choices, courage, and compassion, and each person's mural is different, incomparable, and uniquely beautiful. When you try to imitate another's journey, you lose the colors of your own soul. But when you walk with authenticity, your life becomes a masterpiece no one else can create. The Buddha said that true freedom arrives when you relinquish the urge to compare, the habit to compete, and the fear of falling behind. For no one can walk your journey, no one can learn your lessons, and no one can claim your destiny. As the evening breeze carried the fragrance of the earth, the Buddha raised his hand in blessing and said, "May you walk your path with courage, may you honor your heart with kindness, and may you meet yourself with understanding." He reminded them that peace is not found at the end of the path, but in the way you walk it, slowly, gently, mindfully. And when doubts arise, when you feel lost or uncertain, simply return to your breath, for your breath is the bridge between confusion and clarity. The Buddha said that a person who walks their own path becomes a beacon for others, not by shining brighter, but by shining true. Others will be inspired not by your victories, but by your sincerity, not by your speed, but by your steadiness, not by your perfection, but by your authenticity. And in living this way, you uplift not only yourself, but the world around you. With his final words, he offered a message that echoed deep within every heart. Comparison steals your peace, but truth returns it. Walk your own path, and you will walk towards freedom. With that, the gathering slowly dispersed, each person carrying within them a quiet awakening, a renewed commitment to honor their own journey, to live with awareness, and to embrace the profound peace that comes from being fully, courageously, and beautifully themselves.